Hello and welcome to Film Feud. I am your host, Angel Ramirez. This is my buddy,
Marcus Nartatez.
just kidding, my co-host. Here we are bringing you our X-Men Apocalypse spoilers-filled review. Once again, spoiler warning. We don't have time to do non-spoilers, so we just want to get you our thoughts as quick as possible.
Maybe eventually.
Yeah, we'll see where it takes us. So let's just get right into it. Opening of the movie. First shot. Egypt. Wide sweeping shot of Apocalypse ruling over. You see him getting old and the body transfer and all that. What do you think of that?
One of the better beginnings of a movie I've seen in a while. I think it set it up pretty well. I don't think what they did with it was necessarily great, but I think they set up who Apocalypse was, what happened to him, and how people feared him and respected him. So again, I think it set it up well. It was beautifully done. One of the better cinematic, vast. I always love those times.
Yeah,
I always
exactly.
feel like directors can do like with the pyramids.
Gladiator and
There's
Lawrence of Arabia, the big epic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it rivals right up there with the opening of X2, where it wasn't as like, oh my god, we're right into it, but just how epic. You get a feel for what they're going for in the movie just from the opening sequence.
Yeah.
So, getting into the plot and the story structure, I mean, we talked about this when we got out. I feel like it did a good job of flowing. There was parts in the middle where it was kind of a little janky, but just flowing from set piece to set piece it seemed natural. Going from X Mansion blowing up, to Alkali Lake to Egypt.
I was never lost about where they were in the timeline or how they got there. I think they did a good job in that. I was happy. After seeing the last movie we saw was Captain America, which we really liked.
Yeah.
And I felt that was kind of one of the weak points. I didn't know where things were at certain times. This was a nice linear, well, not really linear. It went back and forth, but they did a good job telling you where they were and what time period they were. So bravo to that one.
So let's get right into it. The movie's named after him, after all. Apocalypse, played by Oscar Isaacs.
Poe.
Yeah. So what'd you think of him?
I thought there were things I liked about him and the things that I didn't like about him. I initially liked the way he looked. Kind of did a good job of what I would think Apocalypse looked like.
Yeah.
But there were some of his mannerisms that it was inconsistent. He was very regal the way he talked. You kind of spoke onto it that he probably had, what were you saying, some of the best lines?
Yeah, he had some of the best dialogue in the whole movie. Just some of the acting was a subpar, not subpar.
No, he's a great actor.
It took you out of it a little bit. Like when he rolled his eyes, he was talking to somebody and he rolled his eyes inside. It didn't feel like Apocalypse would do that.
I felt the same way. There was one point where he like tapped his head and he kind of looked frustrated. And it wasn't a part where he would be frustrated. He was kind of just explaining something to Xavier.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It was just an inconsistent performance, I would say. I liked him. I thought for the most part he played a good Apocalypse. And as far as Marvel films, ranks up in the top half of villains.
He's no Malekith, but I mean he's not Loki either. But he's somewhere in the middle. He's good. So let's talk about some of the most exciting elements. Seeing the new old mutants, you get to see the new Jean Grey, Cyclops, Nightcrawler. What you think of those guys? Stick out?
We'll go down the list. Jean Grey. Growing up watching the
animated series
on Fox. She's one of my favorite characters. She played a little. You didn't really notice her until the end of the movie. She was here and there. She had one scene where you kind of saw her powers. I mean, I'm guessing most people knew who Jean Grey was.
Yeah.
But she was okay until the end, where she bloomed and became the Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I guess we're going to talk about that at the end, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll talk about that at the end.
I think for me, she was just okay. I think the chemistry with Scott was good, and I think they played that really well. But I just didn't really buy it until the end when you see what happens to her. I think that really won me over, and I feel the same way about Nightcrawler. At first, maybe it's just because I love the original Nightcrawler so much. Like Alan Cumming did a great job in that role, but at the end of the movie, there's a joke, and he kind of won me over with that one joke.
What is that?
You know how he knocks out after he teleports everyone?
Yeah.
And then after the whole battle's over, he wakes up and he still thinks that they're fighting or whatever.
Oh yeah, kind of.
Yeah. So
I've done that in real life.
What did I miss?
Punching.
Cyclops. How'd you think?
Cyclops was great. I never one of the original ones from the TV series again. Always excited to see how they use him. I liked his story. I liked I liked how he became a mutant. Mm. Again, I haven't really read the comics, so I don't know how much of this is real straight from the comics, how much was taken liberty by the studio or the director. But I enjoyed his small origin. And I like that how he and Jean Grey got together because they both really didn't know how to control their powers. So they were together because they were social outcasts. Yeah. There's one point where Cyclops thinks the other students are avoiding him, and it's actually her. Mm-hmm. And it kind of I think it.
Yeah, you gotta be pretty crazy and weird to stick out in a school full of mutants. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta be on a different level than just a normal weird kid. But Cyclops,
nothing wrong with weird kids.
No, I
was a weird kid.
Yeah, they grew up to be us.
I still am a weird kid.
Cyclops, I think they did a really good job. He was my favorite part. I think in the original movies, James Marsden was cast perfectly.
Yeah.
I think he was great. I just feel like they didn't use him like they should have. Like, Cyclops is supposed to be leader of the X-Men, you know what I mean? Like, he's a Boy Scout, but he's not a pushover. He's strong. So I think this planted the seeds for that kind of leader. Like, you can tell he's gonna do what's right, but he's got kind of a little edge to him where he's not gonna get fucked over. You know what I mean? So real quick, Jubilee, it was good seeing her. She didn't really do anything.
If she didn't look like Jubilee, I would have no idea who she was.
Exactly. She didn't get to use her power at all. Like, they didn't have a party at the end where she shot, fireworks for everybody. I think that would have been cool. But
that's a good...
Right? Yeah. Hey, I'm free. I could drop the job in a second. No, but I think the only negative thing about them, I think they had great chemistry, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Nightcrawler. The only thing I kind of wanted more of was when they said they were going to the mall. And then, I feel like in the marketing, we were promised this big mall scene.
I feel... if I had to guess, I feel like there was actually a mall scene.
Yeah, there is. They in the promotional footage, there's scenes of, Nightcrawler having a brain freeze and all that stuff.
Got it. But I feel like it would take away... I think it was too light for this film. Mm. There was no other real spot for that. It's not really... I think it would have been odd. Yeah. An odd placement. So I'm glad they didn't do it. But I agree. They did kind of hype it up a little bit.
Yeah. I think also we should cover the other side of it. So we got the new characters from Jean Grey, Cyclops, Nightcrawler. Let's go into the Four Horsemen, the opposite side. Let's save Magneto for last because he's got, the biggest arc. But Psylocke, Archangel, what do you think of those two?
Psylocke, I don't know if I liked her just because I am small. I'm a little in love with the actress.
Yeah. Olivia Munn, right?
Yeah. Damn you, Aaron Rodgers. No, but my girlfriend's going to kill me for saying that. But she was good. She didn't really act. She was more of a stunt person. She had a few lines and she had a few looks and better than anything that I could do. But her action sequences were good. Mm-hmm. Again, she was probably the person out of the main characters, the person I knew the least about.
Yeah, I mean, same here. I think it reminds me a lot of what happened in Fast and the Furious 7 with Ronda Rousey. She was just there to be the tough, enforcer, strong, silent type kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
nothing
I
wrong
think
with that.
she did good, but just nothing that stood out that much.
Kind of like in Deadpool. Gina Carano, I think, from the UFC.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what about Archangel?
Poor Archangel.
Yeah.
He never lasts through a film. They always kill him off.
Yeah, and the first one, he didn't die in the first one. He just flew away
that's right.
with
You're
his
right.
dad.
Right. I might as well. Never to be seen again. But yeah, no, he I was really excited for him. I liked Archangel, and I think they showed the little that they showed. None of these characters really had a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
Screen time. But I think what they showed, who he was before, how he became, basically became depressed, what it looked like, and there looked like there was a relationship between Psylocke and Archangel before that was never touched on. But when they find him in the rafters drunk because he doesn't have fucked up his wings, he's no longer and Apocalypse comes and gives them these awesome metal wings, shoot out feathers. So I think that was really cool, and it kind of showed. I don't know if social commentary is the right word, but powerful people recruit people a lot of times that are broken and need help.
Yeah.
And
this is how he gets the leg up. And
I think all of them are like that. Now that I think that, Psylocke was kind of working for a seedy guy. The name escapes me.
Archangel?
No, well, who Psylocke was working for.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
He
nobody important.
Yeah, nobody important. Archangel, was kind of lost. He was being used as like a caged animal in the beginning to fight. I think we were talking about it. You said he fought the Blob first.
I thought that was so interesting that there's a couple of digs to the previous bad X-Men movies, and that one I think was, we're not going to need Blob after X-Men Origins. There's nothing we could do with him. And the other one was when they were coming out of the movie theater, the young X-Men, and they were talking about they had just seen Return of the Jedi.
Oh, yes.
And they were like, everybody knows the third movie is the worst.
There's been a ton of Star Wars references.
Yeah.
I was watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. today, and there was one.
Yeah, I mean, it's Star Wars. I
understand the Marvel and
but
Disney
there wouldn't
connection.
be pop culture the way there is today without Star Wars.
Yeah.
But, so what about Storm? We haven't talked about her
yet. Storm, I think she looked like Storm.
Yeah, the mohawk was good.
I think she looked like Storm. She was cool. We didn't see her that much. We kind of saw again. She was homeless when Apocalypse found her and
pickpocketing and all that.
Yeah, and was about to be beat up by some merchants in Egypt. I don't remember her being Egyptian in any other media, but
I think it's because she's from Africa and Egypt, it's right there. But I think they did good for what they went for. I just kind of wanted to see, especially after seeing Civil War and seeing Black Panther and how he came and he was regal. Because, Storm is supposed to be like the leader of her tribe or whatever, and everyone looks up to her and thinks she's a god.
And she was like the leader of this.
Children. It's like it reminded me of Oliver Twist. And you got to pick a pocket or two. Like, it was that.
Yeah. What did I think when I saw it? Oh, I thought Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So I wish they would have went for the regalness of her. But I understand they had to have her broken so that it was easy to manipulate her.
And if I could just talk about the Four Horsemen, it's kind of one of the main problems I have with the film. Mm-hmm. I never understood why they had to be there. I mean, everything that Apocalypse did, he was so strong.
Yeah.
He was so strong. He didn't need it. He didn't. It felt like he didn't need help.
Hey man, he gets lonely sometimes.
He gets lonely, but if anything, I feel like they slowed him down a little bit. But I don't know. I never. There was. I kept thinking Magneto. In past films, took on the X-Men by himself.
Yeah.
And it was quite obvious that Apocalypse was a lot more stronger than anything the X-Men to that point has ever seen.
Yeah.
And I wish they would have explained why, or had a different reason why he needed these four horsemen.
Well, in the defense, let me just play devil's advocate. I think they did a good job of having him be super powerful, but he doesn't have all the powers. Like, that's why he needed Professor Xavier.
He has a lot of powers, so.
Yeah, but that's why he needed Professor Xavier, so that he could control people. That's why he needed Magneto. He can't control metal. He could just do the molecular manipulation or whatever. So I think it makes sense. And you can't be in more than one place at once, so you send.
But they were never really not in one place. I guess they were.
So
I don't know. I just felt I think if they had a reason why it was four each time, it was why he stopped at four. Like I don't know why that bothered me.
Yeah.
It just I didn't know why the four horsemen.
Yeah.
Why it had to be four? Why were they there? He's just so strong.
Well, one thing that wasn't disappointing about the Four Horsemen, I think we can agree, is Magneto.
Yes. Who was the fourth horseman?
Yes. He, number one in our hearts, though. Because he had that opening scene with his family. It kind of took me out at first seeing, like, Magneto that we feared for the last few movies go work in a machinist shop and stuff. But, you grow... A metal shop, of course, because he's Magneto. Couldn't work in plastics or anything.
Like a weird choice, but I actually, when I first saw that scene, I was like, "Is that Fassbender?"
Yeah,
I was like, "Is that just somebody else?" I just didn't expect to see my first, clip of Magneto, being working.
Pressing. Yeah. I don't even know what the hell he was doing.
Talking Russian. Was it Russian?
Something. But the scene, the reasoning for him coming out of retirement, even in the theater you could hear when that arrow leaves and you find out it pierces through both of them.
We'll set it up a little bit.
It's a spoiler. They've seen it.
So, yeah. So, just in case you're one of the weirdos that didn't watch it and just watched spoilers, sorry, I just called you weirdos, but I don't understand you. But yeah, so look. Quick synopsis: looks like Magneto has kind of given the whole bad guy mutant life up. And, lives in like this cottage with his wife and his daughter, who we'll touch on a little bit more. And he seems to be happy. And then something happens in this metal shop, or whatever they're doing there. Whatever they do there with a lot of metal. A guy almost gets crushed by this big pot of lava or whatever they're doing, and he uses his powers. And there's a couple people that see him, and next thing you know, there's a lynch mob at his house. They take his daughter. He convinces them give the daughter back. In a struggle, someone with a bow and arrow, because they have bow and arrows, they don't have guns, because they know who he is by articles.
Yeah.
People knew who Magneto was, so they figured it out. So they had bow and arrows, and something happened. What happened? What caused him to use the arrow?
He was just distracted and he let go on accident.
Okay, yeah. Oh no, the bird. No, the birds.
Yeah, the birds. Because Scarlet Witch was scared.
Well, what you think of Scarlet Witch? So anyway, someone ends up shooting not only his daughter, but his wife with one arrow, and it was probably one of the more heartbreaking scenes.
There were some audible gasps in the theater.
Yeah, there was a guy that said something and started laughing.
He was like, "Oh no! Oh hell no!"
But yeah, and then you kind of saw him flip, and you kind of knew at that point he was going to be Magneto again. Eric was dead once again.
Yeah.
You kind of talked about who you thought his daughter had special powers too, and that's what kind of caused the chaos that ended up why she was dead. But you think it's who?
I think it was Scarlet Witch because in the first X-Men movie, you see, X-Men Days of Future Past, you see Quicksilver with his sister, and he's holding her, and you think that's Scarlet Witch. But in this movie, you find out that Magneto was fathered Quicksilver and then left before he was born. Yeah. So how would he have made Scarlet Witch? So that's why I think it was
interesting.
It was Scarlet Witch.
We'll never know.
Well,
because she's dead.
You never know. Maybe Bryan Singer will come over and explain it to us beat by beat.
We haven't talked about actually Quicksilver. I'm not sure if we were.
He's one of the reoccurring characters that we see that we've had since X-Men. Well, since Days of Future Past, but the other guy since X-Men First Class, Quicksilver.
Do you like this Quicksilver better than Marvel's Quicksilver?
Yeah, absolutely. I was not sold on him at first when we first saw his look in Days of Future Past, but definitely grew on me, and they somehow found a way to top that scene from Days of Future Past when he was stopping the bullets and everything.
That was one of the few comedic scenes, I feel.
Yeah.
And it was...
Actually, I thought the movie was pretty funny. There was a lot of good parts. Like the heat vision from Cyclops and
there's small parts. There were small parts. There were small parts. But this went on for 5 minutes.
Yeah, and that just shows you how powerful he is. He had time. In the time it takes a building to explode, which we all know is 17 seconds.
17 seconds?
Yeah, I did the math. He gets every single person out of the house, still playing around and doing other things along with it. And it just showed you how strong of a character he is.
Yeah, I enjoyed him more in this movie than the last movie. Mm-hmm. I felt like... I don't know. I would like to see more of him. There were some things where I felt like he wasn't mad enough at. I felt like they wanted us to think he was mad at his dad, Magneto. I just didn't feel. I didn't feel like he was mad at him.
Yeah, I didn't really get the sense he was mad. I think you saw some real maturity from him when he decided not to tell Magneto. Because he sees that he just lost a whole family. Yeah. And how is he going to react to a son that he's never known or whatever? That's probably like 24 now. So, I mean, I don't know.
And lives in a basement.
Yeah, with his mother that you left. What about Beast? Hank McCoy.
I liked him. The first time we saw him, and I still like him this time.
Yeah. I think he does a really good job. In this one, I see the characters Beast and especially Xavier becoming the people that they are in the original X-Men movies. Yes. Like, Beast, I think, really grew into his role this time. Because even in First Class, he seemed a little weird and stuff. And it got me to the point
where... He's definitely an authority figure now.
Yeah, and, he's an elder of the school. And he's a teacher. So, and I think it made me forgive the fact that they treat Beast like he's the Hulk. Just so they can have more screen time with that actor. I forget his name. But... Beast is Beast all the time. That's part of his struggle. But the way he plays it makes me forget about it. So it's okay. Mystique. You go first because I have nothing good to say.
Oh, I mean, that's my bad. I liked Mystique. I heard a lot of bad things about her performance in this film. Mm-hmm. But I didn't think I think she did an okay job. I think Mystique is kind of a very bland character, anyways.
Yeah.
In everything I've ever seen her in even the movies, the original three, or was she in all three of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, the original three, the TV series. She wasn't really like a.
Had a lot of growth.
Yeah. She was more. She always looked at her as a henchman or.
And that's exactly the problem with it is that she's always been a henchman, and they try to make her this big figure. And first, it starts with Jennifer Lawrence, and Jennifer Lawrence she's one of the most talented actresses working right now, but she does not care about the X-Men. I feel like just coming off of Hunger Games, and the last one she kind of got away with it, but this one I feel like she just wasn't in it. You know what I mean? You could tell, like, even the makeup, you could tell she didn't want to wear the makeup because there was only 2 scenes of her with it, and
yeah, but it was more scenes than Beast.
But with Mystique, it wasn't even the real makeup. Like if you look at the makeup from Days of Future Past, or from First Class to now it's just like a coat of paint, a blue scotch paint with a roller.
I have to relook at that because I didn't get that sense. But
I
had no problem with her. I didn't. I thought she played a good role. Was it a great role? No, but I never thought she was great in it.
I don't think you can make a henchman. It's just because it's Jennifer Lawrence playing it.
So
you can't have the story serving the actor? You have to have the actor serving the story.
Did you have a problem with her in the previous film?
I didn't, because she wasn't the main character of Days of Future Past. You could say it's Wolverine. I didn't have that much of a problem, and because her whole point was just her killing that one person. That was it, because that's something Mystique would do. So it kind of went under the radar. And in the first one, she's actually trying, and you could tell because she does a really good job. So I just think she's kind of over it, and I'm over it as well.
Well, I guess we'll agree to disagree. I didn't think it was that bad. I don't think it was great, but I think she's a huge actress now, and I think if she wasn't a huge actress, nobody really would have a problem with it. But because it wasn't a typical performance by her, I think that's where a lot of people are coming from. We'll agree to disagree.
Yeah. So let's move to Moira real quick.
Moira. I hate her name.
Yeah. Moira McTaggart. In X-Men First Class, right? She was a pivotal part. She found out about the Hellfire Club. She did things. In this movie, all she does is wake up Apocalypse. And then the rest of the movie, she's just like, I kind of remember this school.
Yeah, but
it's like I was here before.
But I mean, she did have her memory wiped of the whole, like, of everything having to do with.
I know, but just every other line is like, X-Men. That sounds familiar. Cuba. I was there one time. It just, you know what I mean. These are the 2 that I have the biggest gripe with, is Mystique and Moira, because
Moira wasn't in it enough for me to have a gripe with it.
And I love Rose Byrne. I love her. She's great, just not... The character is not written well in this movie.
She's a very small part of the
yeah.
Except
that
she does kick the whole thing off by
wake up Apocalypse and then tell Xavier about Apocalypse.
Trying
that's
to be
whole exposition scene, and that's it.
I mean, I guess she didn't know she could tell.
Yeah.
Because she didn't know she knew Xavier at that time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
So the big surprise that we didn't know was going to be
Were
there.
you really surprised?
Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Of course not. They showed in the last trailer the nails.
I was never surprised. I knew it was going to be from the day they announced it.
Yeah, I think it was great seeing him Berserker Rage and stuff. The only thing I didn't like, I know it looks cool in the comics with the whole Weapon X, armor and stuff. I don't think it really worked in the movie. I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
It seemed weird. Especially because we've seen Wolverine break out of Alkali Lake like 6 times already in these movies. And one, it's weird because he actually had pants on. Usually he's naked coming out of the water or whatever.
Yeah, I like that part. The pants part.
Yeah, of course. But just him, I think he was great. And it was a great place to put him because these young characters, Jean, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, they don't know how to handle these soldiers and stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So having Wolverine come and take care of everyone in the base, I think it was a good idea.
And I think his main purpose was not to just set up, a future movie with him. I think that was the first time I saw Jean Grey's power, kind of use her power voluntarily.
Yeah.
She had a scene earlier where she kind of is having a nightmare, but he's kind of a wild animal.
Yeah.
And she just stops him in his tracks by kind of soothing him. Mm-hmm. And as we all know, if you follow X-Men at all, there's that love triangle between Scott, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Wolverine. And that's kind of where that's where it all started. I like seeing that part of it. I agree with you. There was just something weird
about the armor. Yeah, weird
about the armor. It's just, I know it was. I've seen pictures of him with the armor on.
It's one of those things that works on the page, but for me, it doesn't work on the screen.
Yeah, I think
and sometimes it's like that.
You could have just had a crazy, ravaged Wolverine running around. You kind of would have got the same idea.
Yeah,
I think it was a distraction.
I think what this scene definitely helps set up is we know the last Wolverine movie is going to be rated R. And this was very gory, this scene, for a PG-13 movie. You see blood splashing, he's slicing people's throats, he's doing all this stuff. And I think that's to get you more hyped. If he's doing this in a PG-13 movie, I can't wait to see what he's going to do in Old Man Logan. It's not official, but it's Old Man Logan.
We could think, yeah, he did look old.
Yeah. So... No, I think he just was grown out. He was hairy. And I do like the little button on the end of the scene when Cyclops is like, oh, it shouldn't have worked, but it did. When he's like, oh, I hope we don't have to run into that guy ever again. But yeah, like you were saying, when Jean gives him the memory, it sets the foundation for why he would be so enamored with her.
Yeah,
later on.
That small scene he was able to set up a lot, I think, in the future.
Yeah.
And they did a good job. And it was a very less than a minute, probably you would say, of on-screen time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's all you needed of it. Anything more would have been taken away from the actual storyline. So
let's just jump into the last character that we haven't talked about. Of course, the headmaster, who's now has a shiny new head, Professor Xavier.
Yeah, I love how they progressively. I feel like almost every one of the new films had when you first saw him, you didn't. That's not Professor X, and then every time we saw him, he was a little more Professor X, and then now he's the bald Professor X that we all know and love.
I can see him growing up to be Patrick Stewart when he's older.
But this is definitely the more Professor X that we know. He is a headmaster of the school. Mm-hmm. He has a clear plan now. He's a little more controlled of his powers. He's definitely more powerful than before. I've always liked him in this role.
Yeah, I think seeing him from his first scene or whatever when he's in class and he's teaching, and that to me was like, okay, this is Professor Xavier. He's in his wheelchair. He's doing the thing. It reminded me of one of those scenes where you would walk in on Patrick Stewart when he was teaching.
Yes.
And they have to tell the professor something. It reminded me very much of that.
Yeah. They did a good job of kind of like giving those deja vu moments. Yeah. I feel. And I think they always do that though in these movies.
I think I'm not positive, but I am almost positive that there's a scene he says at the end, towards the end of the movie to Magneto, and he says, "I feel a great swell of pity for anyone who comes to my school looking for trouble." And I'm almost positive Patrick Stewart said that in the first X-Men. Or it might have been the first or second, but I thought it was great. It was great turning him into young Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, they're definitely.
I just think it's amazing that they cast those two parts perfectly twice.
Yeah, I feel like the timeline has now kind of merged together.
Yeah,
I feel like that.
Yeah,
we started with old, new, and now they're kind of they're definitely meeting now. But he's who we think he is, and nothing really new there.
Mm-hmm. So let's get right into the big reveal at the end. The way they defeat Apocalypse is by Jean Grey going Dark Phoenix, tapping into that. To finally we get glimpse of a real Dark Phoenix.
And the biggest problem of the storyline for me.
What?
I thought it was cool. I thought it was really cool. I love Dark Phoenix. She was every time I've seen her, even in the previous movies, she's such an interesting character. anything with so much power but no control, but she's not bad. I loved it. My problem with the whole Jean Grey turning into the Dark Phoenix is maybe I just don't know. But everything I've read and I've seen, anytime Jean Grey turns into Dark Phoenix, she's uncontrollable. Like, to get her back, into Jean Grey, and I think we touched on it in different movies. They put like a barrier in her mind.
Yeah.
They have to defeat her.
Yeah.
And then knock her out, and that didn't happen. She just turned into Dark Phoenix, went nuts, and then she's like all of a sudden Jean Grey again. That's never happened. I had a real problem with it.
See, I didn't have as much of a problem because I don't think that's her turning into Dark Phoenix. I just think that's her letting go for the first time. So she can tap into that power at first, but she's not going full Phoenix. You know what I mean? Because if she was going full Phoenix, that's going to be a whole movie in and of itself, the X-Men fighting her. I think it was just a taste to see of what's to come. You know what I mean? I think they're going to delve into that in the next couple movies. Because if it was Phoenix, Professor Xavier wouldn't be telling her to just let go. You know what I mean? Like, he must have known that they could wrangle her back.
I don't know. I've never heard of her reeling it back at all, and I've never seen her as Jean Grey going crazy like that. I mean, they had a big Phoenix behind her and fire.
Yeah.
She was definitely the Phoenix. I thought it was a cheap way out. I think they could have kind of showed. I think they could have set that up a little bit more. The whole what they needed to do, like have Magneto, throw something at her, knock her out, and then maybe the last scene, Xavier putting the barrier back into her head. I think that could have, kind of set up more things in the end.
Yeah.
Because now we're going to see her, if they do go on that, we're going to see her go nuts again, and then...
I think it'll be extra nutty if she goes nuts again.
Well, if that's the case, I'm excited, because she was pretty badass the way she was.
Yeah, I mean, this whole ending is what sold me on her being Jean Grey, because I was not kind of sold on her the whole time,
No.
and then seeing what she can do as Dark Phoenix, I'm excited for what's to come.
Do you know if they're going to do anything with Dark Phoenix?
I have no clue. I know the next movie is going to take place in the 90s, but I don't know what they're going for.
Yeah.
What's your just final closing overall thoughts on the movie?
I'd say go and see it. If you like the other films, the past two, there's no reason not to see this one. It was good. Now, I think it came after probably one of the better film, comic book films we've seen in a while, in Civil War. So I think it's probably getting a little bit of bad publicity because of that.
Yeah.
I think if it came before that, it would have people would have been okay with it. But
it's like if Goodfellas came out 3 weeks after The Godfather Part 2.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't be as...
We may get some comments on that if anyone watches this that disagree with you. But
it's not on that level, but I'm saying comparatively.
Yeah, no. I see what you're saying. So, yes, watch it. If I had to give out of a 5, I would say 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me it was good. I think when you go see an X-Men movie, except for X-Men 3, you're gonna most likely have a good time. They know how to make a good superhero movie. They've been doing it since 2000, and it's not as good as Days of Future Past, but it's good. It's very good and entertaining. I liked all the school stuff. Seeing them in school was kind of cool, and it was a lot funnier than I had originally anticipated. So out of 5, I think I'm going to give it a 3.6. Just because I like it.
Because you got to be different than me.
I got to go maybe 3.7 or whatever. But yeah, I thought it was very good.
Yeah.
And if you're an X-Men fan, you'll love it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think even if you're not an X-Men fan, if you're just going to watch a movie, it's good.
Yeah, you
can
do a lot worse things with the 2 hours of your time.
There's some big parts where plot holes, and there's some plot holes, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
And you forgive a movie like this with plot holes. I was unforgiving of Batman vs Superman just because of the scope of how big it was. This movie didn't have that same feel, so my expectations were more forgiving.
You're just gonna talk about X-Men in every review. I mean, Batman vs Superman, every review.
Yeah, you know.
So let's go on to the main crux of the show, the film feud. The question that we're going to be feuding today is, should X-Men go back to Marvel? We have differing thoughts, so we're just going to see where this takes us. So, Mark, you want me to? Oh, yeah, I'll open. I think X-Men should never, and I mean never, go back to Marvel. Because if you think about it, it's great that you see Spider-Man in Civil War, but that's just one character. And Sony wasn't doing that hot. But you could argue that with X-Men, from the first X, without the first X-Men, there wouldn't be the cinematic movies that we see now. Like, first X-Men was the one that opened the door. Before Spider-Man, before Dark Knight, before Batman Begins, there was X-Men. So I think just having that legacy and them... Like, you got so excited for seeing Civil War, you get to see 12 super-powered people fighting. Mm-hmm. You've been seeing that since 2000 in the X-Men. You see Magneto, all these mutants fighting each other. So I think they've earned the right to keep... They've done the right things with their property. I mean, Fantastic Four aside. But their X-Men stuff is great. And that's Fantastic Four is a different argument. I would be okay with that. But I think seeing them go back to Marvel would only mean less movies for us. With it being in a different studio, you get more chances for more movies.
And I see where you're saying, and I probably would agree if we're talking about anybody other than Disney and Marvel, because I feel like everything they're touching right now they're like Midas. Everything is gold, and I know it would. And I don't think it would be that hard to get another director, even the same director. Just who knows Marvel characters better than Marvel, and I just don't trust. I don't trust them. I don't trust Sony. Fox. Sorry, I don't trust Fox. It's like I feel like the next one's gonna be bad. I feel like they have a pattern. It's like too good, then an okay one, then too good, and then a real shitty one again. I don't get that with Marvel. I agree. I see where you're coming from, where the focus is nice, and we probably do get a little bit more. But I think we would get less. But I think we would get a really cool X-Men.
I mean, that is the point. But you wouldn't. I just wouldn't personally want to see an X-Men film every 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean? Like, every other year is good because, you got...
How cool would it be to see Hulk? I love seeing Hulk and Wolverine.
No, it would be great.
Hulk and Wolverine was such a cool battles.
Yeah, I mean, it would be fantastic. It would be cool. Super cool. But it would be cool for that film. And after a while, you would get... Even if it's under Disney, Disney's pushing it... Marvel's pushing it, doing 3 superhero movies a year next year. You know what I mean? Like, I like how they have 2, one in the beginning, one in the end. But then they're already up to 3, just handling what they have. So if you got X-Men, you would have to go to at least 4. And I think they're not superhero fatigue, but just in general, seeing the same studio put out all these same movies, you see the line, and it could get a little too much saturation for the market. But
all right, well, we give it to you. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comment section. Do you think Marvel? Would you like to see Marvel take a crack at X-Men, or are you happy where it is with where it is? Let us know in the comments,
yeah. So if you guys enjoyed this review, you can like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your grandmother. I don't care. So this is going to be it for us. You can follow Marcus at...
Marcus F. Nartatez, Nartatez. It'll be down in the description below. That's my Twitter account. And then you can find...
you can find me, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at The Great Rambino. So that's going to close it out for us. Have a great time watching this movie. If you haven't seen it already, you're weird. If you haven't seen it, go see it, please. So this is Angel, and in case we don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Thank you.